They say silence is peaceful. It's not. Not when it wraps around your skin like wet cloth, pressing against your lungs until you forget what breathing is supposed to feel like. I haven't heard a single sound since I was 9 years old. No birdsong, no engines, not even my own voice. But silence doesn't mean peace. Not when your past still whispers from behind closed doors. My name is Dr. Elara Voss. I'm a trauma psychologist, specializing in victims who speak without words, children who don't cry, veterans who don't blink, women who smile too much. I read pain like most people read faces. I read faces too. Lips, expressions, words are shape and movement now. Emotion lives in the shadows between them. My patients often think I have the calm of a saint. They see my quiet as strength. It's not, it's armor. My office is designed to comfort. Cream walls, soft lighting, no ticking clocks. There's a sound-absorbing rug on the floor and thick curtains over the window, more for the hearing than for me. But everyone feels more vulnerable in a quiet room. That's how I get to the truth. This morning, my receptionist Myra signed that I had a new referral. A walk-in, technically, though he had made an appointment through the emergency contact form on the clinic website. His name, Julian Cray. No known trauma history, no criminal record, no insurance info. He simply showed up. Silent types are often the most dangerous, Mira had joked. She doesn't know the irony of saying that to me. When Julian walked in, I noticed his posture. First, upright, deliberate. He wore a grey coat, clean, but wrinkled, and carried nothing. No phone, no file, not even keys. He smiled politely when I gestured toward the couch, then sat with his hands clasped between his knees. Not nervous, not exactly coiled, like something waiting. I turned on the voice-to-text tablet between us and nodded. He understood instantly. That surprised me. Most people stutter or talk slower when they see the screen, trying to catch up with their words. Not him. You don't talk, he said. I mean, you can, but you don't hear me if I respond. Not really, that must be weird. He spoke directly. Not rude, not friendly either. I came to you because I think something is wrong with me. I signed back slowly, then typed so he could follow on the screen. What makes you feel that way, Julian? Because people disappear around me. People I know, people I care about. I stared at the sentence longer than I should have. Not the words themselves, but the way he said them. Not frightened, not shocked. Stating a fact. Tell me more. Who has disappeared? Friends, one girlfriend, a guy I met online. It's never immediate. It's always after. A conversation, or a fight, or something small. He blinked. Not once during that sentence. His eyes were hazel or maybe pale green. Hard to tell, but something in them felt familiar. Not the face. The expression. I pushed back the flicker of recognition. I've learned not to trust that feeling. Trauma plays tricks. Have the police questioned you? I typed. No one connects me. Or if they do, they forget. People forget me all the time. That's the real issue, I think. He smiled then, the kind of smile you give to someone before a secret slips out. I swallowed. I want to remember, he added. And I want to know if I'm remembering wrong. After he left, I sat in the same chair for another hour, staring at the blank screen. I don't usually take notes right after a session. My memory is precise, trained by necessity, but something about Julian made my fingers twitch. So I opened my journal. Session notes. Julian Cray, male, mid-30s, claims people vanish around. Him speaks clearly. No visible tics, unsettling presence. Not overt, but residual eyes felt. Recognizable. That last word bothered me the most. Where had I seen those eyes? That night, I dreamed for the first time in months. A white room, a heavy door, a mask on a face that kept changing, a hand on my wrist, then nothing, just silence. When I woke, I was sweating. I told myself it was the patient, that it had nothing to do with me, but a small voice, from a long time ago, whispered something I couldn't quite make out. A voice I shouldn't be able to hear, and yet, I've spent my life learning how to listen without hearing. Some people scream with their bodies. Others confess in the way they lie. But the most dangerous ones, they speak in metaphors, elegant polished lies, so beautiful you don't realize. You're being drawn into a maze until the door shuts behind you. Julian Cray was full of metaphors. He arrived for his second session exactly on time. Same grey coat, same empty hands. This time, his hair was damp. It hadn't rained. "You're not recording these, are you?" The screen translated his words before I finished signing hello. I shook my head. Only notes, nothing recorded. I believe, in privacy too much of it, sometimes. "Good," he said. "I say things I regret when I know I'm being watched." Then he sat and leaned back, almost too comfortable. I watched his lips, his jaw, the flutter of his eyes. "I used to think of myself as a lighthouse," he began. "But now I wonder if I was the rocks beneath it." I typed slowly. Why the change? Because the people who came to me, they never made it back. I felt my fingers hesitate over the keyboard. His tone didn't match the words. There was no grief, no guilt, only curiosity, like he was studying himself in real time. "Do you think you're responsible for their disappearance?" "No." Then a pause, a twitch of his lip. Maybe it wasn't what he said. It was how familiar it felt. The metaphors, the calm detachment. I've heard this kind of language before from children describing nightmares they weren't supposed to remember. And I used to have nightmares like that, too. When I was 11, I wrote something in my journal. A single sentence in crooked cursive. I saw the mask again, but it wasn't on a face. I never understood what I meant. I stopped writing after that, until last night. I pulled that old journal from the drawer under my bed. The pages smelled like old paper and winter, and something strange happened. My fingers trembled in our session. Julian watched me carefully. "You ever wonder," he asked, "if therapists end up becoming mirrors for their patients? Or do patients become mirrors for the therapist?" His voice, what I imagined of it, had a smoothness I didn't trust. Like he already knew the answer. "Is there something specific you want to reflect back?" I typed, choosing my words with care. He smiled. "I think I know you." For a moment, I felt my heart knock against my ribs. Not because I believed him, but because I almost did. "You have the same eyes as someone I used to know." I typed quickly. "From where? When?" "A long time ago, there was a room." I froze. He looked at me then, not in the way patients usually do. Not seeking help, recognizing, like a memory he had only just retrieved. There were numbers on the door, painted in red. 314. I dropped the tablet. He didn't flinch. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You remember it too, don't you?" I couldn't breathe. That number, that door, it was in one of my dreams. Always closed, always humming behind it. I picked up the tablet and typed with shaking hands. "Have we met before, Julian?" He shrugged. "Maybe we're remembering the same thing differently. Or maybe you're not remembering it at all." After the session, I sat in the restroom for 10 minutes, staring at myself in the mirror. I'm not prone to panic. I know how to regulate my breath, manage my heart rate. I teach others how to control their trauma responses. But trauma isn't always a loud bang. Sometimes it's a whisper you've forgotten how to answer. That night, I opened the journal again, page 11, the one I never turned past, and for the first time in years, I remembered something new. The door with the red numbers, the smell of bleach, the sound, yes, the sound of a girl crying in another room. But I never cried. I never made a sound. Not even when he touched my wrist. I dreamed again. Julian was standing in the corner of the room, behind a one-way mirror. I was on the other side. A child version of myself sat on a cot, eyes wide, lips sealed. Julian raised a finger to his lips. I woke up gasping, silent. Of course, but my mouth open as if I'd been screaming. The silence felt heavier than ever, not peaceful, not blank. It felt full of voices I'd tried to bury, and one of them sounded like mine. I don't watch the news often. The closed captions lag, and the anchor's fake smile always reminds me of bad therapy, hearsed concern, masking something colder underneath. But this morning, I turned it on. It wasn't instinct. It was impulse. And what I saw made the room tilt sideways. Breaking, missing teen believed to be linked to other recent disappearances. A girl named Lily Harrow, 17. Last seen outside her art school 3 days ago. No signs of forced entry, no known enemies, just ... gone. They showed her school ID, photo bright eyes, cropped hair, and a necklace with a tiny red charm. That charm, I've seen it before, but not on the news. Julian had described it. Last session, offhandedly, she used to twirl a red stone on her neck like it could protect her. I thought he was describing a memory from childhood, or fiction, but it wasn't. He was talking about her. The caption on the screen blurred as my thoughts spun. There's no way he could have described that detail unless he knew her, or had seen her, after she vanished. I opened my laptop, checked the timestamp on his first appointment. It was booked 3 days ago, the exact day Lily disappeared. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I scrolled through forums, newspaper clippings, Reddit threads on unsolved disappearances. The more I looked, the more patterns surfaced. Names, ages, locations, victims no one could connect until I saw the metaphor, Julian's metaphor, a lighthouse who pulled ships in instead of warning them. The missing all had one thing in common. They had reached out for help shortly before vanishing. Online support groups, anonymous therapy boards, crisis lines, places people like Julian might lurk, might ... hunt. My own reflection began to feel unreliable. I stared at my face in the dark, illuminated only by the screen's glow. Same cheekbones, same scar near my eyebrow. But the eyes, they weren't mine anymore. They looked like hers. The next day, Julian arrived early. He was already seated when I walked in. He smiled. "Sleep okay?" I signed nothing, just sat. Opened the tablet. Let the silence stretch between us. He tilted his head, amused. "You believe in coincidence?" "Not anymore." "Then I should probably be honest." I watched the screen as he spoke. My hands clenched under the table. Lily Harrow messaged me the night she vanished. She said she was scared, said someone was following her. She thought it was me. I told her it wasn't, but I didn't try very hard to convince her. I typed slowly. Did you meet her? He hesitated. I think so. It's hard to explain. Faces blur. Time doesn't stay straight. But her voice, I remember her voice. I swallowed. My mind spiraled. He was lying, or he was confessing, or both. And worst of all, he was pulling me into it. After the session, I called in a favor. My old professor, Dr. Miles, now semi-retired, still had connections at the University Police Task Force. I told him I had a patient who might know something about Lily Harrow. He asked if I had recordings. I said no, that's illegal, Alara. You know that. Unless he gives consent, I cut the call. I wasn't going to break the law, not yet, but I was going to break my silence that night. I pulled out my locked box. Inside were 3 things. My childhood journal, a photo of me at age 9, a police report and filed. Unsigned, never submitted. It was from the year I disappeared. Yes, I disappeared. To dot only for 48 hours. But long enough that my mother almost lost her mind. They said I was found wandering the woods, barefoot, mute, and covered in soot. I had no memory of it, or so they believed. The truth was I remembered too much. I just chose to forget. Page 14 of the journal. I turned it with shaking hands. There, in shaky pencil, was a sketch. A hallway, a door marked 314. A girl standing in front of it. Not me, someone else. She was wearing a red necklace. I dropped the book. How could I have drawn her? How could I have known her face? Unless, ... She wasn't the first, and neither was I. That the silence around me began to feel loud. Not in the way of noise, in the way of presence. Someone was in my memory with me, and that someone might be Julian. Therapists make terrible patients. We know all the tricks, all the masks, all the escape routes. We know how to lie without lying, and I'd done it for years. But last night, I dreamt I was screaming, and I could hear it. That terrified me more than anything Julian had said. Her name was Dr. Isla Fenn, and I hated her the moment I walked into her office. Too many books, too few questions, her hair too neat, her smile too symmetrical. She signed slowly and used an app that lagged even more than mine. But she was the only trauma specialist who agreed to meet me without a background summary. No intake forms, no history, just a single message from me. I think I'm remembering something I buried for 2 decades, and I need help before it buries me back. She simply nodded when I sat, didn't ask why a psychologist needed therapy, didn't flinch when I said the word abduction, didn't blink when I admitted I might have known someone who is now disappearing. Others, we started slow. Visualization, sensory recall. I told her about Julian, though not by name. I said he described things I couldn't explain, that he made me feel like a child again, not innocent, not free, trapped. And when he looks at me, I signed. I see ... something I know, but I don't know why. She asked me to close my eyes. Describe the first thing you hear. Not in memory, in sensation, I told her. The sound of dripping, then a door slamming shut. What comes next? A voice, not mine, younger, whispering. What does it say? I hesitated, then typed, "Don't make noise. He likes it when you make noise." When I opened my eyes, she was staring at me not with concern, but something deeper, recognition. "That sentence," she said, "you've said it before, not here, years ago, to someone else, in a report that was never filed." My blood went cold. "How do you?" She pulled out a folder, thin, old, yellowed edges. "I was a grad student working under Dr. Miles back then," she said. "He mentioned you once. A missing girl returned mute. No physical harm, no memory. But I remember this phrase from his notes. I never forgot it." She flipped to a page. There. It was, "Don't make noise. He likes it when you make noise," written in a child's scrawl. Mine, after that, I couldn't sit still. I left the session early, heart pounding, throat dry, hands shaking. On the way back to my apartment, the city lights blurred into streaks, neon memories I couldn't place. Was it possible that Julian hadn't just resembled someone from my past? What if he was from it? Back home, I dug deeper. Old newspaper clippings, online archives. I searched every report of abductions near mine. Nothing matched until I widened the range. That's when I found Jeremy Cray, age 10, disappeared for 3 days. Found wandering in a park, mute, withdrawn. Year 1997, 2 months before me. Parents refused media contact. The case went cold. But the last name, Cray. Not Julian. But perhaps once, Jeremy became Julian, a reinvention, like I had done, only, he remembered. That night, I stared at my own face in the mirror again. But it wasn't my face anymore. It was hers. The girl from the dream, from the hallway, with the red necklace, and her eyes weren't asking for help. They were blaming me. I journaled what I could before the memory slipped again. There were 3 rooms. Not one. One had a broken mirror. One had toys. But they were locked in a glass box. The third had water, a tub, a drain that echoed. That's where the voice came from. That's where I heard her last. But I couldn't write more. Not yet. My fingers were frozen. Because something told me if I kept remembering. I might not be the victim in this story. I might be something else entirely. I found the recorder tucked behind a book on dissociative identity disorder. Not mine, not Myra's. And I hadn't seen it yesterday. It was a black micro recorder, old model, battery still full. When I pressed play, I expected static. What I heard, instead, was my voice, not my professional tone, not the carefully modulated speech I use when I occasionally try to read lips aloud or practice phonetics. This voice was fluent, sharp, fast, full of panic. He knows he's here. Don't trust anyone, not even me. Silence. Then static. Then another voice. Julian's. You were never meant to remember a lot, but you do. Somewhere in that pretty little trauma vault of yours. It's all there. And now we're just trying to decide which one of us gets there first. The recording clicked off. I stared at the device, unsure if I was holding evidence or a hallucination. I checked the security feed from the clinic. No breach, no visitors. Mira confirmed she hadn't seen Julian today. He hadn't been scheduled, but someone had been in my office. Or, I had. I locked myself in that night, pulled the blinds, turned off all lights. I needed to think, but my thoughts weren't quiet anymore. They shouted from corners of my mind. I'd kept locked for 2 decades. I saw flashes, red numbers. 314, a man's hand pressing a button, a girl's voice crying my name. double quotes ELARA ... Please, don't leave me here. I tried calling Dr. Islafen. Her number rang twice, then went dead. So I called Dr. Miles, my old mentor. He answered on the third ring, his voice groggy. Alara, I typed quickly. Was there another survivor in my case? Another child? Jeremy Cray. He was silent. Where did you hear that name? I didn't answer. He sighed. You weren't supposed to know about him. His parents covered it, paid to seal the records. Said publicity would damage him further. But yes, he was the first. You were the second. We always suspected the two of you might have crossed paths in that place. I asked, what place? Another. Long pause. We never found it. Just the stories. The symbols. The ... silence. You came back with no injuries, but with a look in your eyes like you'd seen hell itself whispering to you. I ended the call. He didn't ask why. I returned to my office the next morning, early, before sunrise. The light was wrong. Dust motes hung frozen in the air. My chair was slightly off angle, and the painting on the wall, it was upside down. I walked slowly to the desk. On it, a piece of paper, unfolded, blank. But when I turned it over, a photo, grainy. Black and white. Two children, a boy and a girl, side by side, holding hands. Stopped me. Julian, in the background, a red door. 314. Later that day, I drove to the address listed on Julian's intake form. It was supposed to be an apartment near the river, but it wasn't. It was a boarded-up building, burn marks on the walls, graffiti over the door, and nailed into the framer. Single number, 314, painted in red. I stepped inside. The air was thick with mildew and memory. 3 rooms. One had a shattered mirror. One had broken toys, burned plastic. One had rust stains circling an old tub. I walked toward the tub, knees weak, chest tight, fingers trembling. I leaned over. In the drain, something sparkled. A necklace, a red stone. I touched it, and the scream that ripped through my memory wasn't mine. It was hers. The girl I left behind. And suddenly, I remembered everything. Her name, her voice. The night I escaped. By locking her in. I didn't sleep after I left 314. I drove 4 hours. I don't remember the streets or the turns. Just the pounding in my chest and the sharp weight of the necklace in my palm. The red stone was cold, too cold, like it had been waiting for me all this time. And when I closed my eyes, I saw hers. The girl, she was screaming, pounding on the door. I saw myself, 9 years old, fingers on the lock, frozen, terrified. And then I turned away. Memory is a strange creature. It doesn't return as a story. It comes as fragments, sensations, disgust, grief, and guilt. A flood of guilt so massive it feels like drowning. Dr. Isla once said that the mind represses what it can't integrate. But now I wonder, did I repress the memory to survive? Or did I hide it because I knew it would destroy me? Back in my apartment, I found another envelope. No name, no stamp, just placed under the door. Inside was a photo, new, printed on glossy paper. Me, standing in my office, staring at the blank screen. Taken through the glass wall. The angle was wrong, like a security camera that didn't exist. Beneath the photo, one handwritten sentence. The truth is behind the other door. Julian hadn't come for help. He hadn't come for revenge. He came to remember. and to make me remember too. But why? Because he thought I abandoned him? Or because I was part of it? I went back to 314. This time at night. Flashlight in hand. Gloves on. I didn't care if I was trespassing. I had to find the other door in the burned hallway behind a rotted shelf. I found it. It was smaller than the others, half-height, like a child's door. No number, just a handprint smeared in soot. I hesitated, then pushed. It opened to a staircase spiraling down into darkness. Every instinct told me to turn back, but I had already crossed too many lines. I descended slowly. The air changed, damp, cold, and then, beneath the stale silence, a hum, low, mechanical, rhythmic, like something still breathing at the bottom. A narrow room, lined with boxes. Inside Polaroids, journals, recordings, files. I opened one, Ilara Voss, age 9, duration, 48 hours. Status, compliant. High dissociative response, suggestible, another. Jeremy Cray, age 10, duration, 72 hours. Status, resistant. High aggression, requires sedation. There were more, dozens, all labeled, all children. Some marked missing, others returned. A few silenced. I dropped the folder. The room spun. This wasn't just one predator. This was a system. Footsteps echoed behind me. I turned. Julian stood in the doorway. Calm, no smile this time. "I knew you'd come," he said. I stared at him. "You remembered all this?" He nodded. "Not at first. But I kept dreaming, kept seeing your face. You were the only one who looked back at me, the only one who didn't scream." He walked toward me, slowly, not threatening, not friendly. "They let you go, Ilara, not because you escaped, because you were already broken the way they wanted, and they knew someday you'd bring the rest of us back." I shook my head. "No, that's not true. I tried to help you lock the door. You turned away. I was a child. I was afraid. So was she." His voice cracked. "She died down there. You know that, don't you?" My knees gave out. I sank to the floor, and I remembered the moment I ran, her voice begging, "Don't leave me here." And I did. Julian knelt beside me, laid something on the floor, a file. Her name, Mira Keane, age 8, status, unrecovered, presumed deceased. I looked up, eyes wide. Keane, my receptionist. Mira, not the same, Julian said. They reuse names, change identities. It's part of the experiment. I opened the folder. Inside, a sketch, drawn in pencil. A girl in a hallway. Red necklace, hand outstretched. The caption scrawled in childlike print. I watched her leave me. I cried that night, for the first time in years. But it wasn't just grief. It was awakening, because now I knew the truth. I wasn't just a survivor. I was a witness, and maybe, just maybe, a participant. They say the truth will set you free, but I know better now. The truth doesn't free you. It follows you. It haunts you. And sometimes it becomes you. I didn't return to work the next day, didn't answer calls, didn't open the blinds. The red stone necklace sat on my desk like a wound that never scabbed over. Mira texted once, "Are you okay?" I stared at it for 10 minutes before deleting the thread, because no, I wasn't okay. And maybe I never had been. Julian came again. No appointment. He let himself in. Somehow, he had keys. He didn't speak at first, just sat, watched me. We were back in my office, same chairs, same tablet. But everything felt wrong now, like we were sitting in a replica of the past, waiting for the same ending. I typed, "What do you want from me, Julian?" He answered out loud, slowly, as if every word was a decision. "I want you to remember who you are, who we were, and who they made us into." I signed, "We were just children." He leaned forward, "Exactly. And now we're the only ones left who can tell the story. But first you have to tell the truth." I didn't respond. I couldn't. The images were too sharp now. Too loud. I remembered the girl in the tub. Myra, or someone who looked like her. The water rising, the door locked, the red light blinking, and me on the other side. Silent, unmoving. Not because I wanted to leave her, but because someone told me, "Be quiet, be still, and you'll be safe." Julian placed something on my desk, a recorder, the same model as before. He pressed play. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a session. Me, 9 years old, speaking softly. They say, I'm good at being quiet. They say the other girl talks too much. They said I could go if I helped keep her quiet. Silence, then, so I did. I covered my mouth. The nausea came in waves. Like hearing a scream in your own voice that you didn't know you could make. Julian didn't look away. He didn't blink. They used us, broke us, turned us into weapons against each other. But you survived, and you forgot. They made sure of that. Me, I remembered everything. I had to. I carried all of it for both of us. Typed, with shaking hands, "Why come back now? Because the system's still alive. I've tracked it for years. The files, the names, the survivors, they've started again. And the only one who can help stop them is you." I stared at him. "Why me? I'm not a hero. I'm not even whole." He smiled finally, but it wasn't warm. "No, you're not. But you're a mirror, and mirrors show what people want to hide. They trusted you. They made you forget. And now you're the perfect weapon." Outside, sirens wailed. A coincidence, maybe. But in this moment, it felt like something had been set in motion. He stood. "I left instructions in your inbox," he said. "Names, locations. The next child, you can save her, Alara, or you can forget again." He walked to the door, then paused. "I'm done being the lighthouse. It's your turn now." Then he was gone. I sat for a long time after that. The city moved outside. The walls creaked. The silence returned. Only now, it wasn't empty. It was full of voices, of ghosts, of truths long drowned. Later that night, I opened my inbox. A message. No sender. Subject line. Myra Keane, age 9, still alive. Attached, an address. A map. A grainy video file. I watched it. A girl in a basement. Cold, silent. She looked up toward the hidden camera, and for a second, just one, I could swear she looked like me. I closed the laptop, looked in the mirror, and finally, I let the scream rise. No sound escaped. But inside, my silence was louder than ever.